Oh hey, it's after hours at Cinemassacre Video, and I'm putting in a little overtime to talk more movies. But first, a word from our sponsor.
It came from the internet. Sleek slabs of magic alloys ritualistically bound together with synthetic fibers by the necromancers at Ridge Wallets. Pack up to 12 cards in a variety of styles and colors, like the sinister burnt titanium. It's to die for. Just ask these other 30,000 lost souls. It even has a lifetime warranty and a 45-day test drive. There are a few money clip options you can attach too, so you'll look pretty flush at the Monster Mash. Crawl on over to ridge.com/Cinemassacre and use code Cinemassacre for 10% off your order.
Did you ever have a movie that you love so much, yet there's something about it you feel could have been improved, and if you had the executive power, you could take this already great movie and make it perfect? It takes a certain kind of film to get that passionate about. It's so good, but only if they changed a few little things. I'm not talking about reshooting or changing much of the main idea. I'm talking about when the revisions could be made entirely in post-production. Editing. Specifically, the kind of fan editing that's done long after the movie's been finished, when dialogue and music are locked together, when you don't have access to the original audio tracks, and cross-dissolves are permanent. It's really hard to deconstruct a movie that's already been made, so you have to work within certain limitations. Fan edits are a special type of challenge, and of course there's also the legal side of it. Even when you're not trying to make any money off it, studios often see it as a form of bootlegging, but that could be a whole other topic. The point is, I'd love to give out a fan edit of my own, but I can't. So instead, let's discuss it. The movie that I think about the most that could benefit from a re-edit is Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. Before I get into it, let's talk about why it's so great. Why is this two-part movie so special? Well, it's a simple revenge story. Beatrix Kiddo, aka the Bride, is a former member of the Deadly Viper assassination squad led by her ex-lover, Bill. She leaves him to start a new life, gets pregnant with another guy, and gets married. But the jealous Bill and 4 of his squad members arrive at her wedding and gun her down. Miraculously, she survives, but she's lost her child. Now she's fucking pissed and goes on a mission to kill the 4 squad members one at a time, and then finally Bill. So why is it so great? Well, first of all, Uma Thurman as the Bride is absolutely amazing. She is a full-blooded action star. I mean, most action stars are very focused on the spectacle, the fight choreography, and the whole physical aspect. She does all that, but also shows her emotions. Her face clearly tells us all the pain she's going through. She does a sad cry, a happy cry, an angry cry, a pain cry. It's a full range of expressions and seems totally real. Her mission is beyond courageous, with so many odds against her, so many people to fight, and so many near defeats, but she keeps on going, and that's why we root for her. David Carradine as Bill is a very intimidating opponent, how he beats around the bush when he talks before making his point. When he speaks, you just get drawn into it, and while he's an evil villain, he's also charismatic. The best villains are the ones you both love and hate. The music was produced and organized by RZA from Wu-Tang Clan and has a wide variety, bringing together Western and Asian elements, and even surf music by the band the 5678s. There's too many memorable songs to count. This would definitely be on my list of best movie soundtracks. Then there's, of course, the writing and direction of Quentin Tarantino. He keeps the story simple enough, but with so much emotional complexity to each scene. He knows how to build suspense and milk every scene for everything it's worth. Being a huge fan of movies, he's known for making tons of references to classic films, whether it's recreating a shot, recycling a familiar plot convention, or even recasting actors from the golden age of martial arts like Gordon Liu and Sonny Chiba. It blends spaghetti westerns and martial arts into a new hybrid genre, bringing together the West and the East in the same way that George Lucas did with Star Wars. It's derivative and not entirely original, but it's original in the way it brings all these different elements together. It's a celebration of film. I could go on and on telling you why Kill Bill is one of my favorite movies, but what's wrong with it? Well, it was originally intended to be one movie, but it was so long it ended up being split into 2 volumes. Not a sequel, but 2 volumes to the same film. But that never really sat with me right. Not because it was split up, but how it was structured. It's as if you took an action movie, cut it up, and put all the action scenes into volume 1, and then all the story and dramatic scenes into volume 2. When I first saw volume 1, that final action scene when she's in Japan fighting the Crazy 88 and Oren Ishii, that is the mother of all sword fights. But then came volume 2, and I thought, wow, I can't wait to see how they top that. But there's very little fighting here. Nothing that even comes close to the big finale in volume 1. And when you go from such a big epic thing to something more low-key and talky, it felt very underwhelming to me. But volume 2 also happens to be a great movie. The dialogue is awesome and there's lots to love, but it's an entirely different movie, not a volume 2 to the same movie. But if you could take these 2 different volumes and make one movie out of them, you have one of the best movies ever made just waiting to be constructed. I've done it, I've tested it, but damn, I can't show it anywhere. So let's talk about it. Here's how to make the ultimate Kill Bill movie. First, it needs to feel like one regular movie, not a marathon. If you just simply combine them both, like in The Whole Bloody Affair, which exists, it comes out at over 4 hours. In my opinion, this would benefit from a more traditional runtime. 2 hours is a fair length. Sure, that's going to upset some people, you're going to lose some scenes you like, but at 2 hours you can still get all the most important stuff in there and it feels so much more satisfying. This is really tough to do. It's not just about cutting scenes, but also trimming a few seconds here and there to keep up the pace where necessary. As mentioned, Tarantino is great at the art of the slow, suspenseful scene, so it's important to let it breathe where it needs to, but sometimes sacrifices have to be made to keep the pace moving along and to fit it within a 3-act structure, a beginning, middle, and end. Something important should happen at all those key moments so it feels like we're always moving into the next part of the story. So let's go in order. Act 1. Right off the bat, start with the wedding scene from volume 2. We don't need those parts with the bride driving the car telling us the whole recap. Just start with the wedding. That's the event that catapults the whole story. When she's talking with Bill there, we can sense his jealousy and it tells us everything we need to know. It builds up tension, and then, by only making minor cuts, we get the squad to appear right before the 10-minute mark. They walk into the church, then you hear the gunfire, and as soon as it quiets down, let's hear the track Battle Without Honor or Humanity. I believe that's the most memorable song of the whole movie, which I've always thought of as the Kill Bill theme. With its funk rock style, it sounds just like something out of a Grindhouse film. And then, right when the main part comes, let's throw in the title screen from the end of Volume 2. It's perfect! Now it feels like a real Tarantino opening. It's very similar to From Dusk Till Dawn, how it begins with the ranger in the store not realizing there's a hostage situation. It builds up suspense, leading to a big shootout, and after the dust settles, the title comes up and you get that rockin' music. It's so good. So, getting back to Kill Bill. After the credits, the police examine the bodies. And then, speaking of Dusk Till Dawn, it's the same ranger played by Michael Parks. Then the bride is in the hospital, and while she's in the coma, this is a good time to go into flashback territory. We can show the campfire scene from Volume 2 with Bill, where he tells of the 5-finger exploding heart technique that the martial arts master Pei Mei never teaches anyone. And then we see the bride training with Pei Mei. We can cut back to her in the hospital when Ellie Driver comes in to kill her. Bill tells her to abort the mission, and then we cut back to the training.
Don't you ever wake up.
And these edits are not in the original film. These are ones that I made. And this is where the training really heats up. At roughly 20 minutes in, she punches in her sleep and then wakes up in the hospital. Check out this transition. So now we're back into Volume 1. Here she's adjusting and figuring out what happened to her. We can show some really quick flashbacks of Bill shooting her, like seen in the beginning of Volume 1. She touches her head, realizes she's alive, lifts up her shirt, realizes the baby is gone, and then lets out those horrifying cries. We don't cut any of that. But we have to lose the rapist Buck, mostly in the interest of time, but also I just thought it was overly cruel, and the Deadly Viper Squad are already enough villains. That poses a little bit of a problem because she needs Buck's vehicle, but with some simple cutting, it seems like she just broke into any vehicle, and it's less important than what happens here. This is where we get the big plot point where the protagonist makes the decision, which will be the whole journey of the film.
I could see the faces of the cunts who did this to me.
We keep some of her voiceover where she explains she wants revenge on the Deadly Viper Gang. Then we get her to Okinawa to meet Hattori Hanzo to get her sword made. Then we have that great scene where he hands her the sword and we hear that amazing track, The Lonely Shepherd. And right there, when she accepts that sword, at 31 minutes, we are now into Act 2. The warrior is on her way. Now, it should be said that we never show the bride's kill list, because if we did, we would see that O-Ren Ishii is the first one, but since that's the biggest action scene, it should be near the end. But O-Ren Ishii has much more backstory than any of the other villains. She has the whole scene where she slices off Boss Tanaka's head, and then the anime flashback. Here, we see her witnessing her parents being killed, taking her revenge, and growing up to be an elite assassin. We should put all that right here. This sets her up to be a main villain of the film, aside from Bill, so that later on, when we come back to her, we'll be ready for it.
She made one big mistake. She should have killed 10.
At 44 minutes, we cut to the desert from Volume 2, where Bill talks to Bud, so now we get to set up Bud a little bit. Bill warns that the bride is coming for them. Right after Bud says, "We'll see, won't we?" we use that great sound bridge that's already there to transition to Vernita Green's home from Volume 1. Here, the bride arrives to kill her, and they have that spectacular fight scene in the living room. Then, they're interrupted when the daughter comes home from school.
Hi, honey. I'm Mr. Steve.
Oh yeah, and that annoying bleeping of Beatrix's name, I never understood that and found it distracting. That's one of those weird experimental decisions that only Tarantino could get away with. So I just cut around those lines. It was a bit tricky, but you'll never notice it was there. So in the kitchen, she kills Vernita in front of her daughter. After she says, "Your mother had it coming," we cut the rest of the monologue, but there's a reason. We'll save it for later. At 56 minutes, we're back to Bud in Volume 2. We don't need any of the strip club stuff. We just cut to him coming home to his trailer right before the bride sneaks in with the sword. He shoots her with rock salt and buries her alive. By the time she's buried, we're 1 hour 6 minutes into the film. This would be the point where the stakes grow higher. In every film, you need that low point where it seems the main character is doomed and everything's going wrong. And it should always occur somewhere after the middle. So once she's buried, let's not show her trying to escape right away. Let's allow ourselves to think she might be dead. Everything goes dark, and then we cut straight to Ellie saying, "Well, that's a fucked up way to die."
I have to give it to you, bud. That's a pretty fucked up way to die.
It's the perfect cut. We jump right into the scene and lose all that explanation where Bud basically just recaps everything we just saw. We don't need it. So Ellie buys the sword from Bud, then she kills him with the snake, and then as she's picking up the money and tells Bill on the phone that the bride is dead and tells him of the grave location, we cut to the grave.
The final resting place of Beatrix Kiddo.
It's a logical cut. The only thing weird is that we're jumping back to the previous night, but Tarantino always likes to time shift anyway, so I think it makes sense. So here, at 1 hour 10 minutes, we witness the bride untying herself and escaping the grave. It's also important to note that this is where her wood punching technique that she learned from Pei Mei comes in handy. While that's already clear in the original film, I think it's worth peppering in some quick flashbacks, just a couple seconds for visual satisfaction, and to more closely tie these two events together. 1 hour 15 minutes. She's now walking in the desert and we get a little breather before her next confrontation. Then she has the fight with Ellie and plucks her eye out. At 1 hour 23 minutes, she walks out the trailer. It originally had no music here, but let's cue Battle Without Honor. This makes it more thematic. We added it right after the wedding massacre, so now it sort of makes it feel like these scenes are related, like it's her turn now. And this upcoming edit might be my best work. I don't mean to pat myself on the back, because it involves bending your arm in a weird way, but check it out. This transition is fucking badass. Oh yeah. Now I'm psyched to see her fight O-Ren Ishii and the Crazy 88. This clearly tells us the final battle is approaching and we've properly entered Act 3. Obviously, we're back into Volume 1 here. But we need to keep the momentum going, so unfortunately, I had to shorten some of the parts where the bride is sneaking in and some of the musical performance by the 5, 6, 7, 8s. Then we get the big fight scene, and if you've seen the movie, I don't need to tell you what happens. It's just one big epic battle. I had to make some trims here and there, but most of it's preserved. And also, the color footage from the Japanese version, use that. Why not? By 1 hour 38 minutes, she's fighting O-Ren Ishii, and by 1 hour 44 minutes, the bride has won. From here, we dissolve to her driving the car from Volume 2. Timing-wise, this feels like a natural spot to end. If it were any other movie, we'd want to close on a high note with all that energy, except for the fact that she still needs to kill Bill, which of course is the title of the movie. So let's get her right to Bill's house. We don't need that scene where she talks to the pimp to find Bill's whereabouts. We can just assume she already knew it and saved him for last. As far as I'm concerned, this scene serves no purpose. But I know the actual purpose is that Tarantino always loved to cast Michael Parks any chance he got, and gave him this little scene of his own, but he's already in there as the Texas Ranger, so let's move on. So she gets to Bill's house at 1 hour and 45 minutes, and in the big twist, she meets her daughter. And this becomes a very emotional scene, the best part of Volume 2. This is where I ran into a minor problem. It feels like we've already spent our Act 3, and that the whole scene with Bill and her daughter is like a second finale. That's when I realized how much I equally love the endings to Volumes 1 and 2. They're entirely different from each other. One is an action set piece, and the other is an emotional tale of a mother reuniting with her daughter and coming to terms with her ex-lover. So it really is like two separate endings to two separate films. But it's a minor issue. It just means they each get trimmed down a bit, and we have to look at it like, you know, we had the big action finale, now the energy has to come down as we settle in for the true resolution. Unfortunately, it also needs to be trimmed somewhat, which means losing some good stuff, but for the benefit of the overall framework. We lose the really long fish talk and the Superman story, but we keep the important bits. The shot of her hugging her daughter while she stares at Bill is one of the greatest shots, which says the whole story right there. She puts her daughter to bed, then comes outside to talk to Bill. We definitely lose the flashback where she finds out she's pregnant just before the assassin comes in. I don't think it tells us anything important that we don't already know. The only thing kind of weird is that in the real movie, after they come out of the flashback, the bride is in different clothes. But the way I cut it is that it seems like she just changed in the house and then came outside. At 1 hour 49 minutes, the final dialogue begins. She tells Bill why she left him. Bill tells her why he acted the way he did, while at the same time expressing regrets. They agree they have unfinished business, they have a brief sword fight, and she does the exploding heart technique. He's impressed that Pei Mei taught it to her. They come to peace with each other, she cries, he gets up, walks away, and falls dead. Damn, that scene is so good. 1 hour 56 minutes. We're ready to wrap things up now. For music, it feels right we add Lonely Shepherd a second time. It's the track that closes out Volume 1, and I'll never forget the impact it had on me in the theater, ending with that great fuck yeah feeling. All we need to use here is one shot of the bride carrying her daughter out, and then we fade to the daughter watching TV while the bride cries on the bathroom floor. It's a wonderful scene. We can see all kinds of mixed emotions coming through. She's glad it's over, she has regrets, she's missing Bill, thanking him, hating him. Anything and everything is spilling out all at once. But there's one thing that I'm sure she has to be thinking of. So here, let's flash back to the moment right after she killed Vernita Green in front of her daughter. Wow, I gotta say, it works perfectly. It brings to mind O-Ren Ishii, who also witnessed her parents die and grew up to be a deadly assassin. We can assume the same is going to happen to this little girl, and one day she's going to come back for revenge. But this scene happens early in Volume 1 and then never gets addressed again. I feel it's 100% necessary to return to it, especially since the quote at the beginning of Volume 1 says, "Revenge is a dish best served cold." It's a warning that revenge only leads to more revenge in an endless cycle. So let's end with the bride saying, "I'll be waiting." Damn. That gives me goosebumps. It's kind of a cliffhanger, but more like an ominous premonition saying this is never going to end. Then you can use the black and white credits from Volume 2, and at roughly 2 hours, we're done. I think it makes it feel like a much better self-contained movie. Act 1, Wedding Massacre, training flashbacks, escapes hospital, gets sword. Act 2, goes on the killing mission, gets buried alive, escapes. Act 3, big battle scene with Crazy 88, winds down for resolution with Bill, final premonition, the end. The rule seems to be Tarantino is always right. And Tarantino's great. He may be the one who made it, but I'm the one who watched it, and this is how I felt. It's my own opinion. It'll never replace the official movie, and not everyone will agree. And if not, tell us, how would you re-edit Kill Bill? And what other great movies, or even not so great movies, do you think could use a re-edit?